Join me as we learn Chumash for Tuesday, Parshas Tazria-Metzora, when the two Torah readings are combined, which is chapter 13, verse 40. Yesterday we learned about different types of lesions that happen in the beard or in the hair, as well as different spots that will cause a person to be a tzaras. Today we continue with some laws pertaining a person becoming a tzaras, and this refers to when a person has an unnatural baldness. Verse 40. If a person loses all his hair in the back of his head, which then he is considered kedeyachu, he is then unnaturally bald, and toyerhu, he cannot become defiled because of this diagnosis. Rashi, verse 40. Kedeyachu toyerhu, meaning, over here, when we talk about the different types of a person's baldness becoming considered toyer, this is not one of them. Toyer mitumas nezaken in nisaken. Toyer is pure from these type of lesions that would consider him impure. She'im eine niden b'samani reish v'zaken. That means if he was born with a certain type of whiteness in his baldness, he is not then considered, or he's not judged, he's not examined in these signs of impurity, whether it's in his head or reish v'zaken. Shehem makim seir, because this is a place where hair is usually growing, and therefore, when we talk about the baldness, it's not in a place where there's hair there, and it's not considered. The laws of the nesek don't apply. Elo b'simani nega irbasar. Over here, you would look at it. What kind of signs, being that he's bald? So you would have to see this would be considered as a place. What kind of tzaras would happen in a lesion on actual flesh, which is michyo fishim, which is this is the place where we spoke about before if a person has a burn there, or if he has some type of inflammation, that's what would apply in that case, because it's not considered anymore a place where of hair. Verse 41. However, if a person loses hair on the side of his head, towards his face, from the side of his head, from the side of his head towards his face, he loses hair. He is then considered bald at the front, and therefore toyerhu, it's still considered pure. Rashi v'imipas panav, meaning mishipua kodkeit klape panav, from the point of his face, from the point of his skull going towards his face. Kori gabachas is called a gabachas. Va'afat stoyin shemikana mekan b'chlal. This includes as well the sides going down on the individual's head as well, meaning the side of his face which is closest to his ears. So Rashi over here is explaining to us when the Torah uses two terminology for baldness. There's a gibeach and there's a kereach. Kereach is when a person is the back head of his bald, that means from his ears going back, and gibachas means bald from in front of his ears going towards his face. Verse 42, if this person, after losing his hair, a lesion then forms either with white or red streaks, nega lovan adamdam, this is a lesion which is white with some red streaks. That means either in his baldness from the front or the back, a lesion of white with adamdam with red streaks, tzaras peirachasi. This is a tzaras, a tzaras which is erupting in him, begarachte begabachte, in his back or front bald area. Rashi. (42) Nega lovan adamdam. So Rashi explains, what does this mean? Posuch, meaning it's mixed. Uminayin she'or maris. How do I know when it's talking about that this has to do with the other ones, with the other views, with the other types of diseases? Talmud leimar nega. Therefore, over here he calls it a nega. That any one of these negas, meaning a nega is one that happens has white. So too, when we talk about in the baldness, they also make a person impure when he has whiteness there, and over here the whiteness which has red streaks in it. Verse 43, and the Kohen will then examine him, and the Kohen will see that he has a lesion on his back or in his front bald area. Adam demes, it's a white with red streaks, in his back or his front bald area. Kemari tzaras basar. This is the same type of vision as you would have the tzaras in a person's flesh of his skin. Rashi, verse 43. Kemari tzaras basar. These laws, the same way that we applied the laws previously, when a person would have a tzaras in his skin, so too this will apply as well in the bald areas in the person's front or back. What did it say over there as well? The same way by the other time when a person had a lesion in his skin, there were 4 different types of white that would cause it to be a time that it would be quarantined, and you have to see if it works, if it spread or it didn't. So too in this case as well. This is not like the tzaras that we mentioned before when it comes to inflammation or to a burn. That we only check after 1 week of quarantine. And not like the nesek that we mentioned before by the here, which don't apply with the 4 different kinds of use, the 4 which are the snow white, the egg membrane white, the different levels of white. And that's in those cases which we're referring to over here in the baldness, because it's on his skin, it's the same laws apply as the skin that we mentioned in the beginning of the laws of leprosy, of tzaras. Verse 44. Ish tzaruahu tamehu. He is a man which is considered tzaras, that he has afflicted with the tzaras disease, and therefore he is impure. Tama yitamenu akoyin. The Kohen then will pronounce him that he is defiled, that he is impure, and beroishe nigoy, because he has lesions on his head. Rashi, beroishe nigoy, ein li ela nesakin. I only know the very fact that the verses are coming to tell me about the laws of this tzaras, which is telling me, I know about that the next verses which tell me what the laws are pertaining to a person that has tzaras, that this applies to a person who has a nesek, that has a different type of, has a different type of negoyim, the different type of lesions and spots. How do I know about the other ones? Talmud Leimer Tami Tamenu, that he becomes pure in a duplicate type of way. L'Rabbi says kulin, that it's including all the different times when a person is pronounced as impure. Al kula nuaimer, that are by all of the cases, because of Yufrumi, he has to tear his clothes, and as we're going to talk about what the laws are pertaining a person who has tzaras. Now the Torah tells us what happens with such an individual who has tzaras. Vahat tzarua, and a person who has tzaras, what is the behavior required from this individual? Asher boy hanegad, that has the lesion, begod of Yufrumim, his clothing must be torn, his garments must be torn. V'roishe yufarua, his head must be allowed to overgrow. Val sofam yata, and he must cover his garment down to. He must cover his face down to his mustache. V'tome yikra, and he announces that he is impure. Rashi, the word perumim means torn. Kruyim, torn. Farua, which means to be revealed, like you revealed a woman's hair by a sota. Megudal seir, he has to have a long hair, he doesn't cut his hair. Falsafam yata, meaning that he has to cover himself like the people that cover themselves, like the mourners, ha'avil, who mourn that they have their eyes covered, that they have something covered in front of them, and they carry it in front of their face until their mustache. Safam, what is a safam? Saras of time, that's the hair of the lips, which we would call a mustache. The tame yikra, mashmiya, he announces to everybody, shu tame, that he's impure, yifrishu memenu, like this way they should stay away from him. Verse 46, kol yemei asher nega boy, all the days that he has the lesion on him, the disease on him, yitma, he becomes impure, tamehu, he is considered defiled and impure, badad yeshev l'chutz l'machana, his dwelling must be outside the camp, and isolated, he must dwell isolated from everybody outside the camp. Badad yeshev, what is the word badad yeshev? He sits isolated. Lo yu sha'ar tameim, he should not be like the other people who are impure or sent outside the camp. Other people, like for example, one who has discharge or somebody who touched a dead body, people can sit together. However, this person, the Metzora sends out of the camp, but he cannot be with other people, but he's allowed to be with other people that have tzaras. V'omer Rabbi Seinu, and the rabbi explained, Man ishtana b'shart meim, why is this Metzora? A person who has this tsaras, he's different from any other type of impurity that the Torah tells us about, that this one's more strict. Leishev bada, that he has to sit alone. V'hoyil v'hu yivdil, because since he went and he separated himself and caused animosity and discord amongst people, b'lashon hara, by slandering and talking about gossiping of others, b'ni shlishta, between man and wife, b'ni shlireo, between a man and his fellow, afu yibadl. Therefore, the Torah says that he too should separate from everybody else, and this way he's punished measure for measure. Michutz lamachane, outside the camp. Chutz l'shalish malachas imhamachnes. He has to go all the way outside all the three camps, which was the Kohen camp, the Levite camp, and the Israelite camp. And that's where he would have to hang out. Verse 47. Now we continue with a different kind of tsaras, a tsaras on garments. Vahabeged. What about a garment? When it has a lesion of tsaras on it. Bebeged semre, bebeged pishtim, whether it's a wool garment or a linen garment. Rashi, verse 48. Or the threads that are used to warp the woof of the linen or the wool garment. La pishtim v'latzemer, for linen or for wool. Oil be'er, or in leather. Bechil malechasar, or anything that is made from leather, any leather article. Verse 48. La pishtim v'latzemer, shall pishtim eshel tzemer, whether it's a linen clothing or wool clothing. Oy be'er, or in leather. Za'er shalei nasim malacha, that's a leather which is a plain piece of leather that nothing was done with it. Oy bechol malachaser, za'er shenasim malacha, that's a worked piece of leather, and leather that something was made from it. Verse 49. V'hoya nega yirakrak, and the lesion that comes onto this garment, or oy be'adamdam ba'beged, is either green or red. Ba'beged, in the garment, be'er, or in the leather, b'shia be'erev, or in the or in the warp or woof of the threads. That means either way. The shir erev means the threads that go both ways, lengthways and the widthways as well. Oibechol kli or any other garment or any other material that's made of leather. Negat harasu. This is a disease of saras. V'hara sakoyin, and he has to show it to the kohen. Rashi, yirakrak yorik shebirakin. When we talk about green, this is the greenest of the green. Pure green. Adamdam, when we talk about red, as well, we're talking about odim shabadumim, which means the darkest red, the red of all red. Verse 50. Then the kohen will examine the lesion. The hisker asanegen will quarantine the lesion shivas yamim for 7 days. Verse 51. And then he'll check the lesion on the 7th day. And he sees that it's spread in the garment, or in the warp or the woof of the garment, or in the leather, or anything that the wool was, or anything that the leather was made l'malacha to work with. Tzaras mam eres. This is a lesion which continues to grow. Hanega tamehu, and therefore this nega, this lesion, makes it impure. Rashi, when the word tzaras mam eres, the word mam eres means it's bright. Lashon silei mam in ur, poignant balaz. Meaning mam eres, it's like a curse. It destroys it. This is like you have it comes from the same word in Yecheskel, where it says the word mam'ir, it's like a person has a splinter that keeps on digging and hurting the person. So too, this tzaras, mameres, it destroys the garment. Medrasha, according to the Medrash, tembei me'irish et leidem emene. The word mameres come from a curse, that put a curse on it, that one should not have any pleasure from this garment. Verse 52, V'saraf esabeged, what does he then do with the garment? V'saraf esabeged, he then has to burn the garment. Or the warp or the woof of the threads of this batzemer of the wool, pishtim of the linen, or any article of leather that was made with it, that the lesion is on it, because this is a tzaras which only causes damage, but and it has to be burnt in fire. Verse 54, verse Rashi, verse 52, Batsamere bepishtim, Shel tzemer oy pishtim, whether it's made of wool or linen. Zeh pshuti, this is a simple interpretation. The Medrash explains as follows. Yochel, I would have thought, Yavi gizi tzemer, vanitze pishtan, bring pieces of wool and pieces of linen, v'yisrafei and burn it together. Talmud loymar. Therefore, the Torah comes along and says, Hiba ishtisaref, just burn this on its own, nothing else has to be burned together with it. Why does the Torah have to tell us in the wool or in the linen? It just would have said, without the base, in. What is it telling us? This comes to tell us that if there are other pieces together with it, which are not made of the wool and linen, and also like the edges, the collars of the garment, that are not sewn in together with it, but they can be separate, they do not have to be burned with it. What is the word umrius? Rashi explains. Umrius lashon safa. Kamay imra. Umrius means like the edge, the collar, the hems, the parts that are just on the outside, like they have, for example, on your tzitzis, you have a piece of silk that's on it that makes it look nice. So too, you can see in very fancy clothing, they put on different pieces that are added to it just for beauty and decoration, and those parts are not part of the garment and do not have to be burnt together with it. Verse 53. But however, if the Kohen examines it, and the lesion has not spread, but beged in the garment, or in the threads which are going either ways, or in any article of leather. Tsiva HaKohen, verse 54, Tsiva HaKohen, and then the Kohen will then command, the wash out what was there, is the item that had the lesion on it, and they will quarantine it for another 7 days. Rashi, verse 54, Rashi, I would think, what does he have to wash? Only the place of the lesion. Talmud loymar. Therefore, the Torah says the garment that has, the item that has the lesion, I would think then that the whole garment has to be washed because it says the actual item that has it. Talmud loymar. Therefore, the Torah says, hanega, the actual lesion. So how do you have it? How do you wash? Okay, so how does that work out? How do I wash the whole thing, but not the whole thing? The nega, but not the whole thing? Yechabes, he washes min habeged, the lesion, and then part of the garment as well with it. This concludes the third Torah reading for Parshas Tazria-Metzora.